My childhood sweetheart's uncle and I were only in a contract marriage. Yet, on our wedding night, he questioned if I had him in my eyes. My childhood sweetheart even asked me out in front of him, claiming we were just strangers with no feelings. But later, he not only made me realize that feelings can be cultivated, but he even asserted his claim when my childhood sweetheart touched my hand. All because that accidental kiss had already made him fall for me. My childhood sweetheart's uncle and I had a flash marriage. On our wedding night, he leaned against the door, watching my childhood sweetheart openly ask me out. He coldly questioned, "Do you even have your uncle in your eyes?" My childhood sweetheart nonchalantly replied, "Anyway, you two are in a contract marriage. There are no feelings involved." Later, he made me deeply realize that feelings can be manufactured. On our wedding night, Jason Smith leaned against the door, watching Kyle Smith openly ask me out for tomorrow. He asked, with a half smile, "Kyle, do you have any respect for your uncle?" Kyle nonchalantly replied, "Uncle, anyway, you two are in a business marriage, with no feelings for each other, practically strangers, so it doesn't stop me from continuing to pursue her." After saying that, he got up, bid us farewell, and left. Only the two of us were left in the bridal suite. This was our first day living here. "You told him we're strangers." The brief silence was broken by Jason. His slightly loosened tie was hidden beneath his shirt collar, and he gazed at me indifferently from a not too far, not too close distance. I was stunned. Jason and I truly weren't close. Our most intimate contact dated back to a year ago, when I accidentally fell and brushed a kiss against his lips. Other than that, in my opinion, we didn't have much interaction. Before I could answer, Jason returned to the bedroom. I absent-mindedly went to wash up. It wasn't until I turned off the shower that a knock suddenly sounded at the door. "You didn't bring your pajamas." Jason's voice slowly drifted in. "Thanks." I opened a small crack and reached out my hand, but the person outside didn't hand them to me. "Thanks to whom?" Jason's voice seemed to hold a hint of a smile. Perhaps the steam had made my brain malfunction. I subconsciously whispered in response, "Thanks, Uncle." Kyle and I used to call Jason Uncle, but given the current situation, this address felt a bit awkward at the moment. Jason didn't say anything. A few seconds later, he handed me the pajamas. He left without a word. After getting our marriage certificate, even though I had mentally prepared myself for half a month, actually living under the same roof still made me nervous. I huddled under the covers, listening to Jason turn off the light and lift the corner of the duvet on the other side. I nervously lightened my breathing. First day of marriage. Even if something happened, I was prepared. But he just held me through a layer of fabric. A light, mocking chuckle came from behind me. "What? You can talk to your uncle like that?" His words were as venomous as ever. The dim environment emboldened me. I slowly turned over and met his gaze. "You speak so harshly." He apologized casually. Then I was wrong. Jason's hand moved slightly, caressing my waist. "So, what do you call me?" Not only is he sharp-tongued, but he's also serious. I wonder if it was an illusion caused by the dim moonlight. Jason's gaze, tightly fixed on me, held an indescribable emotion. "Jason." I shrank further into the covers, my voice muffled. "Jason. Jason." I repeated twice more, as if in a huff, turning my back to avoid his gaze. He scoffed lightly, no longer arguing with me. The next morning, Kyle came to pick me up. But we weren't actually going on a date alone. We were going to comfort a mutual friend who had just broken up. "Uncle, Belle and I are leaving now," Kyle said, reaching for my hand. Jason, sitting on the sofa, put down his coffee. His gaze fell on Kyle's hand, poised to pull mine. "I advise you not to pull your aunt's hand." Kyle, not understanding what was wrong with Aunt, blurted out. "Why?" Jason lifted his eyes, his tone very calm. "Because of me. Your aunt's hand is very sore right now." Kyle looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. I was debating whether it was necessary to explain. When I woke up that morning, I found myself being held by Jason. His hand was just resting on my arm, making it a little sore. That was all. After my 108th rejection of Kyle was ignored by him, Jason's single sentence successfully broke the young man's composure, leaving him dejected for the entire day. After our friend's breakup, Kyle and I spent a day comforting her to no avail. So we decided to take her to a bar that evening to cheer her up. The location Kyle chose. Unexpectedly, we ran into Jason and his group. One of them spoke up. "Kids, want to join us?" Kyle immediately bristled. "Who are you calling kids? I'm graduating college next year, and I'm going to drink you under the table tonight. He made the decision for us directly. So, we ended up with this awkward scene. Dim, hazy lights shone on the booth. To my left sat my childhood friend, Kyle, and to my right was my newlywed husband, Jason, whom I had just married yesterday. I instinctively turned my head to look at Jason. Unexpectedly, our eyes met. He lowered his gaze and chuckled softly, flicking the ash from his cigarette. It was as if he was joking, yet also explaining. It's a proper bar, no escorts. I pursed my lips and lectured him seriously. But you're married. You shouldn't be calling escorts anymore. Did he expect me to praise him? Jason hummed in acknowledgement, leaning slightly closer, his eyes fixed on me. But I never called any escorts before I got married either. This man's gaze was captivating. I was a little stunned, until another voice sounded, pulling me back to reality. Let's play something for all ages today. Truth or dare, the organizer suggested. To my bad luck, I was the first one the bottle landed on. Even worse luck, the truth question was, when was your last kiss? Try to be specific to the month and day, no pretending you can't remember. As the questioner's words fell, the fingers of Jason beside me, which had been idly tapping his glass, also stopped. The air was silent, everyone staring at me, waiting for my answer. Everyone except Jason. I unconsciously clenched my hands. After a long moment, I softly replied, Last Christmas. The man drinking beside me paused, then turned his head, silently looking at me. He probably remembered. That was my first kiss. And it was with Jason. 2 rounds later, it was Jason's turn. He finally shifted his gaze. He also chose truth. Same question. Young Master Jason, when was your last kiss? I lowered my eyes, staring at the juice in my glass. I knew that someone like him wouldn't have such a long dry spell. And sure enough, the man chuckled softly, then slowly spoke. Last night. I immediately looked up at him. Instantly, a chorus of ambiguous cheers erupted. Only when everyone's attention shifted to the next person did I quietly tug on Jason's sleeve. You can't lie when playing truth or dare. The old man, 7 years my senior, might not understand these things, so I kindly reminded him. Jason's hand was pulled by me, and cigarette ash fell onto his trousers. He put the cigarette back in his mouth, calmly flicking off the ash while speaking with a muffled voice. Last night, I was quietly leaning to the side, and you came over yourself. As he spoke, he pointed to his chin. You kissed here. Do you remember? I was sleeping soundly, so it might have actually happened. Then, I'm sorry. I was a little red-faced with embarrassment, apologizing softly. Kyle, who was on the other side, had long since gone to drink with others. Unbeknownst to me, I was cornered by Jason. Where no one was looking, he pinched my chin and lifted it. Since you admitted your mistake in time, I'll answer one more truth for you. I felt my ears and cheeks flush red. What? I asked instinctively. Jason's thumb pressed against my chin, slowly caressing it. My second to last kiss was also last year. He deliberately dragged out his words, leisurely dropping 3. Christmas. At that moment, I felt like I was transported back to last Christmas. In the crowded flow of people, Kyle and I got separated, and I was pushed next to Jason. Just then, he lowered his head. My lips brushed past his. The sudden music startled me. I avoided his hand and casually made an excuse to go to the restroom to clear my head. Was Jason flirting with me just now? Troubled by this question, I accidentally bumped into a drunk man while walking. Sorry. I apologized and tried to leave, but he grabbed my wrist. Drink with me, brother. I'll forgive you. This fat-headed man's hand, gripping mine, seemed to be oozing oil. I calmly lowered my gaze, aiming for the most vulnerable spot. Just as I was about to kick him, a familiar voice came from behind me. Jason, hands in his pockets, looked at the brother with a half smile. I'll drink with you, how about that? The man instantly sobered up. He was in the same circle, had seen Jason, but wasn't close enough for that kind of relationship. Ah, so it's Mr. Jason's friend. A misunderstanding. He immediately let go of my hand. There was an empty wine bottle conveniently at Jason's feet. He bent down to pick it up, walking over with a casual demeanor. The next second, he smiled and smashed it over the man's head. Look closely. That's my wife, damn it. Jason lifted the fat man with one hand and pinned him against the wall. I saw it clearly. I saw it clearly. He nodded repeatedly, fleeing in a panic the moment Jason released him. Only the two of us were left. Jason slightly raised his eyes, a curve forming at the corner of his mouth. Then he asked, "Where were you trying to kick him just now?" I was a little embarrassed. His leg. I blinked. This was a sign of my guilt. He chuckled softly. "Which one?" I certainly wasn't going to answer such a boring question. My mind was still replaying what he had just said. "That's my wife, damn it." He said it so naturally. This little interlude didn't disrupt the subsequent arrangements. The entire bar had 3 floors, with a private billiards room on the basement level. It wasn't open to outsiders. Therefore, everyone playing here was an insider. I was chasing after the bartender, asking her to mix me a pretty but not spicy drink. Jason was then taken advantage of. "Mr. Jason, I've chosen you to be my private model. Can I get your contact information?" The woman in the bright black dress made no secret of her interest in Jason. Jason's sleeves were rolled up to his forearms. He had already sunk 7 balls in a row. But because of the woman's appearance, his 13th ball failed to go in. Jason straightened up, glanced at the phone she held out, and didn't take it. "Haven't you heard I'm married?" I stood not far away, letting out a sigh of relief. He could be a top 3 candidate for the good husband class. The woman tossed her hair, her smile unchanged. "I don't mind." I instantly puffed up like a fugu fish. Jason saw me, raised an eyebrow slightly, and walked over with his cue stick. "Do you know what she wants to do?" I paused. Could there be another motive? For Jason's family fortune? Or a business interest? The more I thought, the more complicated it became, and my brows furrowed unconsciously, until Jason spoke lazily. "She wants to hit on your husband," I said. "Oh, well, couldn't you just refuse? Did you come here specifically to show off that someone's pursuing you?" I looked at Jason inexplicably, feeling he was asking for a beating. A faint smile played on his lips as he leaned in close. "Isabel, I need to tell her that I'm yours." He subtly closed the distance between us until only a few centimeters remained. The bartender had already discreetly left the bar. Only the woman in the black dress was still watching us. I felt like Jason and I were on the same wavelength. "How do I tell her?" My gaze fell on his lips. Jason's voice was deep and magnetic. Like this. With that, a light, fleeting kiss landed on the corner of my mouth. It was a mere taste. When I opened my eyes again, the woman was already gone. Jason's Adam's apple bobbed, and he leaned in again. "Yo, Mr. Jason, what are you doing here?" A loud shout startled me, and I instinctively pushed Jason away. Jason glanced at me. He turned back to the newcomer and said, not very politely, "Scram." The person was Jason's childhood friend, and his gaze darted between Jason and me, who was hiding behind him. He quickly understood, apologizing as he backed away. Sorry, this old servant will scram now." The empty, spacious apartment was instantly left with just the two of us again. Jason wrapped his arm around my waist, tightening his grip. He lowered his head, about to kiss me again. I awkwardly dodged him. He stayed at that distance, not moving, and looked up at me. "What's wrong?" I blinked twice quickly and stammered, "Someone else will come." After another 2 seconds, he slowly straightened up. He took my hand and walked out. "Where are we going?" My face was still flushed. The man didn't look back, his tone calm and unruffled. "Let's kiss somewhere private." Jason had quite a few strong mixed drinks that night. I think he must have been drunk. Otherwise, he wouldn't have pressed against my waist and leaned in the moment the driver was barely a meter away from the car. "Can I kiss you now?" He smiled, a hint of mischief in his eyes. I pursed my lips, torn between a demure, symbolic push-away and just throwing my arms around him and kissing him. The chaotic sounds outside the car once again interrupted the romantic moment. "Let go of me!" It was the woman in the black dress who had been hitting on Jason earlier. She was being harassed by Larry Kelly, a notorious second-generation rich kid in the industry. "What are you playing at?" Dressed so provocatively. "Who would believe you're not looking for trouble? Get lost! Don't touch me!" The empty, deserted parking lot was a perfect place for mischief. I frantically tugged at Jason's sleeve. "Go help her! Larry's about to drag her into his car." It's not that I'm being overly saintly. While I had some reservations about her earlier behavior, I still didn't want to see such disgusting things happen to any girl. Jason didn't object, opening the car door. He stood by the car and calmly interjected. "Isn't your behavior a bit too unsightly, young Master Larry?" Larry stopped and looked back, The woman took the opportunity to break free and ran behind Jason. Who is this person to Mr. Jason? Larry narrowed his eyes, scrutinizing her. Jason smiled. She is nothing to me. I just can't stand young Master Larry rutting in the street. Still, save yourself some face. After all, the only creatures I've seen rutting in public are wild dogs. You! Larry was furious, veins bulging in his neck. But in the end, he said nothing, forcing himself to endure it. Before leaving, he glanced in this direction again. Even though it was one-way glass, I felt like he was staring right at me. The woman got into the car, relieved as if she had escaped a disaster. Whoa, Jason! You finally recognized me! I was ready to fight that bastard to the death. Jason sat in the passenger seat, having just finished a call with the driver. He slowly looked up at the woman in the rearview mirror. Who are you? Jessica Miller. You still haven't remembered me. So why did you save me? I spoke up at the right time, pointing to myself. I told him to save you. Do you understand now? Jessica then began to explain. She had met Jason at a cocktail party 3 years ago before she went abroad. She recognized him in the billiards room and deliberately struck up a conversation to see if Jason still remembered her. As they were talking, Jason's car Bluetooth rang. It was his mother calling. Hello? Jason, is Jessica with you? She's just returned to the country and has nowhere to go. Let her stay at your place for a few days. I instinctively sensed something was off. Fortunately, Jason was an excellent graduate of the men's virtue class. His tone was indifferent, yet undeniable. If she has nowhere to go, she can go to a hotel. My somewhat unlikable mother-in-law found a bunch of random excuses to argue with Jason. From hotels being unsafe to girls shouldn't live alone. Jason still didn't agree, until Jessica timidly came to tug at my clothes, asking cautiously, I am a bit scared. Can I just stay for one night? My gaze swept over the scars on her neck and shoulder, and her torn clothes. When she tugged at my clothes again, pleading, I awkwardly nodded. All right. Jason looked up, meeting my eyes in the rearview mirror. A few seconds later, a light chuckle. Meaningful. Jessica was very friendly and enthusiastic. She didn't say another word to Jason. After arriving home, I somewhat selfishly arranged her in the furthest guest room downstairs. Jason squeezed the back of my neck and glanced at his watch. I have an international meeting. You go to sleep first. I nodded and yawned. Just as I was about to go back to my room, he grabbed my wrist again. That's it? The man's tone was unclear. I was puzzled and tentatively asked. Then, you remember to get some rest early too. Is this also the necessary give and take between husband and wife? Jason probably also thought I was clueless and stopped explaining to me. He just kissed me directly. He gently sucked for a moment, then let go. I actually thought we could have kissed a little longer. I stood still, looking down at the floor. Jason seemed to understand what I meant, and squeezed my ear. Go to sleep. If I kiss you again, I won't be able to stop. What a cold and heartless man. I owed and returned to my bedroom feeling quite disappointed. Around midnight, I woke up from a nap, and Jason still hadn't returned. Just then, I heard faint footsteps. I got out of bed and opened the door, only to see Jessica. She was wearing a silk slip dress, walking towards Jason, who was by the coffee machine. Coffee isn't the only thing that can perk you up. She smiled as she handed him a wine glass, implying something. At this moment, I felt like that orange cat meme, standing behind a wall with a mournful expression. Jason leaned his hands on the counter, not even looking up. His casual smile didn't hide his impatience. I'm only warning you once. I'm married. Don't mess with me. Jessica, with her spoiled princess temperament, was humiliated. She glared defiantly at Jason. I'm not uglier than your wife, am I? And I'm 1.72 meters tall, taller than her, with longer legs. Oh, great. So now it's the farmer and the snake routine. And it's escalated to personal attacks. I slammed the door open. Both their gazes turned to me. I walked over angrily, snatched the 2 glasses of wine from Jessica's hand, and splashed them all over her. Ah, aren't you despicable? I only allowed you to stay one night because I pitied you, and you treat me like Lu Dongbin, biting me like this. I looked directly at her, unleashing a barrage of words. Jessica's dress, now stained with wine, accentuated her curves even more. I launched an indiscriminate attack, pointing at Jason. You! Turn around! Don't look! although he hadn't looked up at her the entire time. Jason still had a smile on his lips as he slowly turned his back. I saw Jessica still staring at Jason. I closed my eyes, seething with anger. "Put on some clothes. Aren't you disgusted with yourself?" I picked up the tablecloth and threw it at her. Jessica sneered. "So flustered. Did I hit a nerve? Do you also think you're not as good as me? Besides, I never asked you to save me. Don't try to use that against me." Jason's smile faded, his eyes cold. Just as he was about to turn around and say something, I stopped him. "I'll handle it." I listened to her outrageous remarks in disbelief, taking a deep breath. Her ancestors must have been sword peddlers. She's so talented in that area. I nodded in agreement. "You're right." Then, without warning, I grabbed Jessica's hand and dragged her all the way to the door. I opened the door and pushed her out, while she was still stunned. I slammed the door shut. "I was meddling," I said, scaring her through the door. "I'm calling Larry right now to come pick you up." Outside, a terrified Jessica was frantically begging for mercy. Jason witnessed all of this. Leaning against the counter, he raised an eyebrow slightly. "Aren't you going to call Larry?" I grumbled, with a cold face. I'm not that low class to use something like that to retaliate against her. In the end, I decided to let Jessica freeze outside for an hour, then have Jason's driver come and take her away. After Jason finished talking to the driver, he walked over and picked me up. It was only when I was in his arms that I realized I wasn't wearing shoes. Jason has typical peach blossom eyes. When he looks at people with a hint of frivolous amusement, he always gives off a debauched vibe of a refined scoundrel. "Why are you so angry with her? Didn't you tell Kyle we were strangers? How could an old man of 28 be so petty? Holding a grudge over one sentence for so long. I'm also extremely stubborn, so I just told him very seriously. I'm just more possessive." Jason chuckled softly, walked into the bedroom, and placed me on the bed. He leaned over, his hands braced on either side of my body. "Possessive? Of me?" This distance was too close. I was a little afraid to look directly into his deep eyes. Jason leaned down a bit more, staring intently at me. He drew out his words, his voice carrying a hint of tenderness. "Have you ever possessed me? So why talk about possessiveness?" I knew that whatever I said, Jason would twist it. Before he could kiss me, I silently dodged. The man paused for 2 seconds, then rolled over to the other side of the bed. His tone didn't betray any anger. "Go to sleep." I buried myself in the covers. Half a minute later, I grunted and turned over to face Jason. Fortunately, he wasn't asleep yet. I found it a bit hard to say. After a long hesitation, I whispered, "I only realized before going to bed tonight that my period came early. It's just the way you looked at me just now. It didn't seem like it would end with just a kiss. That's why I dodged." Jason's hand rested on my waist, squeezing gently. He stared intently at me. "Tell me, what kind of look am I giving? Not only kissing, what else do I want to do?" I had no confidence to refute. "You know it yourself." Jason smiled faintly, no longer pressing. He took his hand out from under my clothes and pulled me into his arms without any other thoughts. He lightly kissed my eyelids and whispered in my ear, "Good night, Belle." I should have known. Given Jessica's shamelessness, she wouldn't easily let things go. She went directly to Jason's mother to complain. The next day, I was woken up by an argument. After hearing Jason's mother's voice, I quickly washed up. Only when I reached the door did I hear the specifics. "Jason, do you still have me, your mother, in your eyes? You just threw Jessica, a girl, out in the middle of the night like that? No matter how out of line she was, you shouldn't treat her like that, right?" Instantly, I lost the desire to open the door. I leaned against the wall, listening quietly. Jason's voice was very faint, tinged with a hint of coldness. "What do you mean by bringing her here? Has my marriage not been announced to you yet?" Jason's mother choked on his sarcastic tone. When she spoke again, her momentum had significantly weakened. "What? Can't you get divorced just because you're married? Jessica's father is planning to expand into the domestic market. Do you know how many people are scrambling to marry into the Zhao family? If you marry Jessica, it would be a powerful alliance. In the entire capital, our Smith family would be unrivaled." I slowly squatted down, my arms resting on my knees. My family's downfall meant we could no longer bring any benefit to the Smith family. It was Jason's support that got us to where we are now. Outside the door, I heard Jason light his lighter. He mixed his words with an order to leave. "If you're done, I'll have someone take you back. Isabel is still asleep, and I don't want anyone to disturb her. Jason's mother slammed her hand on the table, about to say something else, but Jason raised his hand to cut her off, to speak blasphemously. By your logic, you can just get divorced after marriage. You divorced my dad, and didn't you make him marry that Miss Zhao from the Zhao family anyway? This sentence successfully infuriated Jason's mother. Her crocodile skin handbag flew straight at Jason, and she repeatedly called him you. Finally, she slammed the door and left without another word. When Jason pushed the door open, I was still squatting. Awake? I looked up and held out my hands to him. My legs are numb. Jason understood, and as he picked me up, I distinctly felt that cold aura recede. As usual, he put on a nonchalant smile. Heard everything? I hummed into his neck. Jason sat down on the bed. I naturally sat on his lap, leaning into his embrace. He stroked my back and kissed my ear. I won't let you hear such things again. The withered little flower in my heart was watered, and a little vitality returned. I cupped Jason's face and gave him a big kiss. Perhaps it was the atmosphere, but I blurted out, "Thank you, hubby." Jason's eyes immediately changed. What did you call me? By the time I sensed danger, it was too late. He directly cupped the back of my neck and kissed me, prying open my teeth and sweeping away all my breath. I awkwardly put my hands on his shoulders, my lips numb from being held. Midway, I slightly opened my eyes a slit. Unexpectedly, I met Jason's gaze. The man closed his eyes and kissed me more deeply. In the quiet air, the sound of kissing and rapid breathing became catalysts for the rising atmosphere. After a long time, Jason slowly released my lips. Then he kissed the tip of her nose, her eyelids, and then moved to the side of her neck. Say it again, wife. The kisses gradually moved downwards, extending below her collarbone. Jason pulled down her neckline, and the kisses went further down. I remembered my period and immediately pulled my clothes tight. I climbed off him. With a flushed face, I righteously accused him. You won't be allowed to kiss me on these days every month from now on. Jason smiled, propping himself up on the bed with his hands. He calmly asked, Why? I wasn't planning on doing anything. I pursed my lips and didn't answer, backing into the walk-in closet and locking the door. Jason really should take a course on how to speak tactfully and save a girl's face. Soon after, he knocked on the closet door. His tone was long and direct. So, is it because you feel it too? I was speechless. After my period, Jason seemed to develop a kissing addiction. The first thing he did before going to work and after coming home was to catch me and kiss me for a while. But each time, he stopped at the crucial moment, as if he was desensitizing me, and my desensitization training soon came to an end. The owner of the bar we went to last time heard that Jason had hit someone in his bar. Knowing that the drunk man had touched me first, he apologized profusely. Then he organized another gathering, inviting these young masters to his winery in the distant suburbs for a trip. The bar owner seemed unaware, thinking Larry was with us. He invited him over too, among the many people. As soon as he walked in, his gaze fell directly on me. For just a second, then he casually looked away. No emotion showed on his face, making him unreadable. A young master also brought a female companion, right next to us. That night, he and his companion drank a lot. They were very uninhibited, and the soundproofing of the wall wasn't great. I instinctively turned my head. I met Jason's bottomless eyes. This was a danger signal. What should I do? They've aroused me. His voice was very low, like a murmur. I was a little flustered. What? Jason pressed me against the door, his hand suggestively reaching under my top. What do you think? And he deliberately let me feel the reality of being aroused. Just then, a knock on the door suddenly sounded. It was Kyle. Belle, Uncle, I heard you're here too. I'm having a barbecue with friends downstairs. You should come too. I steadied myself and gently reminded him. Kyle's here. Jason was no longer listening to anything. His gaze fell on my lips, getting closer. So what? Will he have an impact? Jason didn't even give me time to react before I was picked up and carried towards the bed. No, he chuckled softly, answering his own question. Outside, Kyle's persistent knocking continued. Inside, I was trying something new. As Jason lifted my bra strap, Kyle finally gave up knocking outside the door. He muttered to himself, Strange. Are they not staying in this room? I listened to the receding footsteps, trying to distract myself, but I didn't want to displease Jason. He bit my collarbone. I hissed softly and looked back at him. Jason glanced at me with a half smile, then lightly patted my face. What are you reluctant about? Do you want him to come back and watch us? At this point, it was better not to step on Jason's landmines. No. I shook my head, admitting defeat. At first, Jason would ask with every step he took, "Are you okay?" I initially thought he was being considerate of my feelings. But then, his questions never stopped. It was like an interview, asking about my thoughts and feelings. I realized later that he just had a peculiar habit in that regard. I don't know how long it was, but the light above my head finally stopped swaying. I felt like I'd been moving bricks all night, and I fell asleep, utterly exhausted. The next day, there was a racecourse next to the winery. Jason was urged by his friends again and again to go. I also nudged his arm. "You go. Don't worry about me." Jason scooped me out of the covers and into his arms. "You don't want to go?" My sleepy eyes immediately opened. I stared at him expressionlessly, questioning. "Do you think I'm in any condition to go horseback riding right now?" The instigator showed no remorse, his tone still not serious. "You're not satisfied?" I nodded, my face stern. Jason seemed to be waiting for me to say that, and he casually replied, "All right, then next time it's your turn." I inexplicably said, "Huh? What turn?" Jason picked up his jacket and walked out, saying, "Next time you get on top, and you control it." The moment his voice trailed off, he also closed the door. He perfectly avoided my breakdown and madness. I slept for the entire morning. When I woke up again, there was someone sitting on the sofa not far away. I gasped in fright and sat up. Larry's smile was playful, and he propped his chin on his hand, scrutinizing me. "Don't say Jason has good taste. Your kind of vibe. The more I look, the more it makes my heart itch." At this moment, I was incredibly grateful that I was wearing long-sleeved pajamas because the room's underfloor heating was insufficient. "How did you get in?" I opened the door and walked in. Larry held a room key between his fingers, feigning apology. "Forgot to tell you, the bar owner works for me. I had him set up this gathering." I kept a calm expression, subtly reaching for my phone. Larry noticed, chuckling as he tapped my hand. "I advise you not to think about calling the police or Jason. You don't want me to do anything to you right now, do you?" I tried not to show fear. "If you dare to do anything, I'll drag you down with me." He raised an eyebrow, looking at me with interest. I knew my judgment was right. "You're much more interesting than those vulgar women. At first, I did target you to get back at Jason. But now, I think I quite like you. If you could consider me, this would be very comfortable for you. Otherwise, you'll be the one suffering, won't you?" As he spoke, he began to pull at his tie and unbutton his shirt. Seeing my tightly furrowed brows relax slightly, Larry probably thought I had been persuaded. He relaxed a bit, lowering his head to pull at his belt, and I seized this opportunity, grabbing the edge of the quilt with both hands. I suddenly stood up from the bed, throwing the quilt over his head. I got out of bed without hesitation and ran towards the door, but Larry was also very quick to react. After all, this was a suite, and the bed was still some distance from the door. Just as I was about to touch the doorknob, Larry caught up. He slapped me with all his might. "You damn bitch! So, the gentle approach doesn't work with you. You prefer the rape game, huh?" He restrained my hands with one hand and started to tear at my collar. I took the opportunity to lower my head and bite down hard on his hand. Larry screamed in pain, letting go of me. This time, I reached the door. I opened it and escaped. The hotel corridor wasn't long, and I quickly reached the corner. Unexpectedly, I ran into a familiar embrace. I looked up and met Jason's stormy eyes. Behind me, Larry's furious curses erupted. "Damn it, you little bitch." The sound abruptly cut off. Larry stopped, then provocatively smirked at Jason. "I've had your wife. She's nothing special." Jason stared at him for a long time, as if looking at a dead man. A chill ran down Larry's spine, but he still forced himself to leave despite the discomfort in his heart. He probably couldn't understand why Jason didn't immediately rush up and hit him. Jason carried me back to the room, his fingertips touching my swollen cheek. "Does it hurt?" I nodded. "A little." I vaguely felt something was off with Jason and tried to lighten the mood. "But it's okay. He got bitten much worse by me." Jason didn't seem to want to talk about Larry. He silently applied medicine to me, then spoke, apologizing with a seriousness I'd never heard before. I leaned my whole face close to his, enduring the embarrassment, and said, "Then kiss me, and I'll forgive you." Jason's smile was faint, as he lightly kissed the other, uninjured side of my face. When we left the winery, the owner trembled and kept apologizing. "Young Master Jason, please understand. I was also threatened by that Larry kid." Jason didn't even glance at him, leading me to the car. After we returned, Jason seemed to become unusually busy. Even when he came home on time, he would be busy in his study until very late. He never mentioned Larry's name once. But I knew, with Jason's personality, he wouldn't let him off so easily. However, I wouldn't ask until it was done. Half a month later, news broke that the Kelly Group's capital chain had broken, and it was heavily in debt. Immediately, the Kelly Group's stock price plummeted. While everyone in the Kelly family was busy, the eldest son of the Kelly family was reported for forcing a girl into an improper relationship and was sent to prison. The next time I heard about Larry, I was in the mood to clear out old things. Kyle frantically sent me a voice message. "Holy cow. Let me tell you, Belle. I had just found a photo tucked in a drawer compartment." I tried to reach for it while responding to him. "Uh-huh. Go on." Kyle spoke excitedly. "That Larry I told you about before, the one I hated the most, he finally ran into a tough opponent and was physically castrated in prison. And also, I don't know what torture he went through, I heard. His backside can't even close anymore." Ha 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 ha. I also happened to pull out the photo, with the words, "New Year's Wishes," written on the back. When I flipped it over, I was completely stunned. It took me a moment to remember. This was me last Christmas. "Hello? Belle, are you listening?" I snapped back to reality, gave a perfunctory reply, and hung up the phone. It wasn't hard to guess that the tough guy Kyle was talking about was Jason. There was a sound from the entryway. I picked up the photo and ran out. Jason was unbuttoning his cuffs, smiling gently. "What's wrong?" I placed the photo in front of him and tilted my head, looking at him. "Last year's New Year's resolution came true. So what's this year's resolution?" Jason paused slightly. A few seconds later, he met my gaze. He said softly, "That Isabel could like me a little more." I shook my head. "That's hard to achieve." I sat in his lap and lightly kissed the tip of his nose. Then I looked at him seriously, enunciating each word clearly. "Because I already like you very, very much." The man's shoulders visibly relaxed. Jason said that the education he received since childhood taught him that making wishes was the most ethereal act. Whether it was a birthday or a holiday, he had never done it. Last New Year was the first time he made a wish. The wish was, "Marry Isabel."